There's a character in House of the Dragon Season 3 who is, right now, living on borrowed time. Except the books already cashed that check, and the show tore it up, set it on fire, and threw the ashes into the sea. His name is Gwayne Hightower. And what the writers just did to his story might be one of the most interesting decisions this show has made in years. Welcome back. If you are new here, this channel is your home for deep dives into prestige TV, fantasy lore, and the kind of analysis that keeps you up at night wondering whether the showrunners actually know what they're doing. Today we're talking about House of the Dragon Season 3, specifically the quiet but massive change that happened in Episode 2. A change most casual viewers probably missed entirely. Because while everyone was watching Rhaenyra finally sit on the Iron Throne and tearfully behead Otto Hightower, something else happened. Or rather, something did not happen. Something that was supposed to happen, according to the book. Gwayne Hightower did not die, and that changes everything going forward. Before we go deeper, let's make sure we're all on the same page about who this guy actually is, because if you have not read Fire and Blood, Gwayne can feel like a background character. Gwayne Hightower is Alicent Hightower's brother. He is a knight. He is loyal to the Greens. And in Season 2, he was brought in as second in command of the City Watch, also known as the Gold Cloaks. He's played by Freddie Fox, and honestly, Fox has brought a lot of charisma to a role that the book treats as basically a footnote. In George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, here is what happens to Gwayne. When Rhaenyra and Daemon move on King's Landing, the Gold Cloaks flip sides. Their commander, Ser Luther Largent, decides that loyalty to Daemon runs deeper than loyalty to the crown. Gwayne figures out what is happening, rushes to sound the alarm, and Ser Luther personally runs him through with a sword. That is it. That is Gwayne's entire story in the source material. He dies trying to stop a betrayal, and the narrative moves on without him. It is a death with some dignity, but it is also a death without much meaning. He is a speed bump in a chapter about King's Landing falling. The show just decided that was not good enough. Here is where Season 3 diverges in a pretty significant way. In the show, Gwayne is not in King's Landing when Rhaenyra arrives. He is out in the field, helping Criston Cole lead a march through the Riverlands. So when the City Watch switches sides and Rhaenyra takes the Red Keep, Gwayne is nowhere near the action. He cannot be killed by Luther Largent because he is not there to be killed. The show also changed how King's Landing fell in the first place. In the book, the City Watch rebels on their own out of loyalty to Daemon, who had been their commander years earlier. Alicent actually tries to close the city gates. In the show, Alicent is the one who orders the gates opened, turning it into a more personal and political surrender. It is a different kind of story with different emotional weight, and it means Gwayne's death scene had no place to happen. So the writers just moved him somewhere else entirely, and now he is alive with no roadmap. Actor Freddie Fox spoke about this in an interview, and what he said is genuinely interesting. He talked about the strange position he is in, where both book readers and casual viewers are now equally in the dark about what happens next to his character. He said the character that the writers are building gives Gwayne further to go and more dimensionality than what the book offered. He called it a real pleasure because it means he can explore the character in ways that were not possible if Gwayne was just going to die in Episode 2. And here's something else that came out before the season even started. Fox casually mentioned in a separate interview that he would be returning for Season 4. That tiny comment, before the season aired, was already confirmation that Gwayne survived Season 3 entirely. Book readers saw that quote and immediately understood the implication. The show has committed to this character in a way the book never did. Here is why this change is actually pretty smart from a storytelling standpoint. In the book, Gwayne never learns that his father, Otto Hightower, was executed. He is dead before it happens. That means the emotional chain reaction that should follow Otto's death, how it ripples through the Hightower family, how it changes the loyalties and motivations of the people who loved him. That chain reaction is largely cut short. But now Gwayne is alive, and at the end of Episode 2, he still does not know what happened to Otto. Think about what that means. At some point, Gwayne is going to find out that his father was beheaded by Rhaenyra personally in the throne room of the Red Keep. That scene has not happened yet, and when it does, it is going to hit completely differently than anything the book could have given us. Because Gwayne already has a relationship with Alicent, with Kristen, with the Green Cause. He has a personality, a presence, a set of loyalties that the audience has had time to understand. His grief, when it comes, will mean something. His response to it will mean something. That is a gift that the show gave itself by keeping him alive. This is also not happening in isolation. Season 3 is expanding House Hightower's story in multiple directions at once. James Norton has joined the cast this season as Lord Ormond Hightower, a cousin of Alicent and Gwayne who is commanding the Green armies in the Reach and serving as guardian to the young Prince Daeron Targaryen. So now you have Gwayne in the Riverlands, Ormond in the Reach, and the whole Hightower military machine operating across different fronts of the war. Whether Gwayne and Ormond ever actually meet on screen is unclear since they are in different regions. But the show is clearly interested in making House Hightower more than just Alicent looking sad in a room. They're giving the family actual military weight, actual strategic presence, and characters who are doing things rather than just reacting to things. Now here is where we need to pull back a little and acknowledge the elephant in the room, because this change does not exist in a vacuum. George R.R. Martin has been very publicly frustrated with how House of the Dragon has been adapting his book. He wrote a blog post that he later deleted, but not before the internet saved every word, where he warned about what he called the butterfly effect. His argument was that small changes compound. You remove one character, and suddenly 3 other events cannot happen, and then 6 more things have to change, and before long you are telling a completely different story. Martin was specifically upset about the removal of a character named Maelor, the 3rd child of Aegon and Helena, whose absence he said would cause significant downstream problems for the plot. He even hinted that there were larger and more damaging changes planned for Season 3 and Season 4. He later told a reporter that his relationship with showrunner Ryan Condal is, and this is his word, abysmal. He said he thought they were partners, and at some point that stopped being true. Condal, for his part, has said that Martin became unwilling to acknowledge the practical realities of making television. And HBO has defended the creative team consistently. So what does all of this have to do with Gwayne? Well, keeping Gwayne alive is exactly the kind of change that Martin would classify as a butterfly. It is not malicious. It might even improve certain scenes. But it is a departure from the source material that creates ripples, and those ripples are now part of a very tense, ongoing conversation between the author and the people adapting his work. Here is my honest take, and you can agree or disagree. The Gwayne change is defensible. In the book, his death is functional but not moving. It serves a logistical purpose without serving an emotional one. The show has been building him into someone the audience actually cares about, and killing him off-screen, or in a moment that barely registers, would have been a waste. What the writers are doing instead is turning him into a character whose arc has real stakes and real consequences. He is now going to have to process his father's death. He is going to have to figure out what loyalty means when the man who defined loyalty for him is gone. That is a story worth telling. At the same time, Martin's concern about butterfly effects is legitimate and should not be dismissed. Game of Thrones started making changes that seemed reasonable and ended up in a completely different story by the final season, in ways that many people found deeply unsatisfying. The warning signs were there early and were largely ignored. House of the Dragon is not Game of Thrones, but it is made by human beings who are under the same pressures, working in the same system, and making the same kinds of trade-offs. The fact that this change works in Episode 2 does not guarantee that its downstream effects will work in Episode 6 or in Season 4. There are 6 episodes left in Season 3. The show has already been confirmed for a 4th and final season. That means Gwayne Hightower has at minimum the rest of this season to exist, and potentially the entire remaining run of the show. What can happen to him? A lot, actually. He could become a significant military commander as the war continues to expand. He could be the character who challenges Criston Cole's strategy or moral compromises. He could be the one who eventually has to decide whether to keep fighting for a cause that has cost his family everything. And at some point, he is going to have to reckon with his father's death and with Alicent's role in what happened. There is also the question of Ormond Hightower and whether their paths cross before the season ends. Two cousins on different battlefronts, both serving the same dying cause, with the Iron Throne now firmly in Rhaenyra's hands. That is a conversation worth having on screen. The actor himself has said he hopes audiences find Gwayne's journey enriching. Given how much runway the show has now given him, there is every reason to believe that is possible. Here is the bottom line. House of the Dragon made a quiet but consequential decision in Episode 2 of Season 3. It did not announce itself. It did not come with dramatic music. It just let a character walk out of frame who was supposed to walk into his death. And now that character has the potential to become one of the more compelling figures left standing in this war. Whether that potential pays off depends on the next 6 episodes. But the decision to keep Gwayne Hightower alive is not a mistake. It is a bet. And right now, it looks like a bet worth watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, leave a comment with your take on the Gwayne change. Are you glad he survived? Do you think Martin is right to worry about where all these deviations are heading? Let me know. Subscribe if you're not already here, because Season 3 has 8 episodes, and we're going to cover all of them. See you next time.